Hi. So over the past few weeks, I've been essentially just smothering my brain with knowledge about climate change and its effects on our planet. I've been for the most part already indulged in the situation of climate change. However, within the past few weeks, I've been digging a little bit deeper into the effects on our planet. My film partners and I recently went to New York City to hear various opinions on what climate change is.
Climate change is something that just happens naturally without, granted the emissions, the CO2 emissions is like making it worse, but ultimately I think like the way the solar system has a year, the Earth has a year around the sun, and the solar system has a year spanned around the galaxy, and I think they have different seasons, and it just somehow, you know what I mean? I might not make sense, but I think I get the idea of it, you know, so.
For me, climate change is changing the global dynamics of our Earth. I work with refugees and immigrants in Boston, and a lot of them are fleeing their countries because of climate change and the drought and the fact that there's no water to feed their animals or their crops.
So climate change for me is drastic and unpredictable changes in seasonalities, things that we're so used to.
Climate change is like the change of weather throughout like all of Earth and the planet, and like it's been changing throughout like the years, and like things have been dying and melting. And
climate change is when cars, they produce carbon dioxide, I think, and stuff, and it goes up and it creates greenhouse gases, or it traps them in, I can't remember.
Climate change measures the climate throughout the year and compares it to years previous.
The patterns in the weather, and it keeps track of when the weather changes.
As you can see from the responses, about half of the adults barely got it correct. I mean, a 10-year-old kid got it better than all of them, and he learned it from Bill Nye the Science Guy. Good job, Bill. What I'm taking from the new responses that we got was that the older generations weren't necessarily informed or didn't know about it as much as the newer generations have within the past few years. Just last week, my film partners and I went to New Jersey Institute of Technology, where we interviewed a couple professors on what climate change is and how it's affecting our planet. Just watch this.
In order to talk about climate change, we need to distinguish two terms, weather and climate.
Climate change is a subject that today is talked about misproperly very, very many times. Climate change is a very natural phenomenon.
So the climate change basically refers to the change in the weather pattern in a certain place or on the globe.
So climate is weather averaged over a number of years. So if you're talking about climate change, that's basically the change in the averaged weather.
The reason we worry about the climate change is because there is a lot of man-made causes that cause that climate change.
You know, my grandmother was always one of those that would talk about, you know, when she'd see the birds, the geese in particular flying south, she knew that was time to start, you know, closing up the garden. She kept logs of this stuff. She kept a daily diary, and, you know, looking back through those diaries now, I mean, yeah, these were things that in upstate New York used to start in October, and more recently it's the end of November.
Basically, temperature increase. When you have temperature increase, you will experience the more hot days.
We know climate change exists through a very basic process of studying ice cores. So as long as there has been ice on planet Earth, we can drill into the ice and pull out cores. And just like cutting a tree and looking at its bark and counting the rings and seeing an age, we can look at the freezing layers on the ice core. Every year ice melts a little and then refreezes. So that creates lines, little striations, and they're literally frozen signatures of what gases are in the atmosphere.
There is a spatial and temporal complexity regarding the climate change. In some area you couldn't feel it, and in some area there's people experience it every day.
Well, certainly the major cycle which is affected, it's the water cycle. So water evaporates, and then it condenses to form clouds which either evaporate or rain down, and so the water is transported from the ocean to the land. And so if you change the climate the transport patterns would be different, of course, and there are quite a few scientists who study that.
The environment as a whole becomes more destabilized, so hurricanes become stronger. The whole purpose of a hurricane is to cool the Earth. So as the Earth gets warmer, hurricanes have to become stronger to cool it more.
Earth ecosystem is a very, very complicated system regarding, you have many, in addition to the humanity, we have all those plants and animals, they're interconnect together. Climate change will have tremendous impact on our ability to produce food and maybe animals.
You have to understand, number one, that climate change is natural. This isn't just human-made. And by that token, humans can't just stop it. During the last major ice ages, CO2 maximized at a level of about 270 to 300 parts per million. Today we're at a level of 410. We're nowhere even close to where the last ice ages began, which is very, very scary. So I don't think it's a matter of stopping climate change, it's a matter of getting that CO2 level down.
We can drive smaller cars, we can drive cars less if possible, combine trips. There are some other things like, when you are buying a house, certainly it would be better if you invest in a house which is built using modern technology. But here, we are less flexible because, you're just trying to get a house which fits your budget, right? Especially you live in a place like New Jersey.
Think about what your own footprint is on the natural environment and then try to reduce that.
One difficulty, this problem is not scientific really, it's more political and economical. Unlike air pollution, climate change cannot be seen very easily.
This is an international problem. So, marching against Trump on this isn't going to do anything, quite frankly.
We as humans, we argue and we blame each other too much for climate change. Oh, you caused climate change. Oh no, the Earth caused climate change. That's not what's important. I had a student say, it's like the kitchen's on fire and we're arguing about who started the fire rather than putting it out.
But we really need the new generation technology and take that consideration, have less impact and less carbon footprints. Less is the best.
So we're going to recap on a few things that those professors touched upon. So what a lot of the professors were talking about is that humans as a whole like to find someone to blame for the issue. One of the professors actually pointed out that we should stop blaming the administration. Professor Alexei was really kind in showing us his experiment that he came up himself. He put two little probes inside two different beakers and had one light that was representing the sun. With the two beakers next to each other and the same temperature coming from the light, he put carbon dioxide, pure carbon dioxide, inside of the beaker and watched the temperature rise significantly. In the other beaker, once both the levels were evened out, he put nitrous oxide. Once he put nitrous oxide into the beaker, the temperature shot up even more than the carbon dioxide. Some of the simplest solutions that we saw from the professors was, honestly, we have to stay educated. One of the best things we can do is follow the 3R principle: reduce, reuse, and recycle. If you're an individual who's financially expendable, why not invest in something like a solar panel? Solar panels will definitely help with your household. They'll also save you a lot of money in the long run. Because in the end, it helps your own planet. Places like Venice and Italy, they are already flooding and the water level is just going to constantly rise. In the near future, a lot of people are going to be affected by droughts. Some people are going to be left homeless, possibly even die because they have nowhere to live. These issues are real, but they're being pushed away. Climate change could help by bringing water to some places that there never was. What if there was a village that never had water and now it does? There are some positives and negatives. However, the negatives really do outweigh the positives. I really do think it's time that this climate change issue really gets touched upon. Earth is our home, and right now we're not really treating it like a home. Just remember, less is best. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.